Hi everyone, I'm Gwen Price with Keystone Real Estate, and today I'm with Kyle Vine from Poetry Ghost.
Hello.
Tell me about Poetry Ghost, because does that mean you're a ghostwriter? What is that all about?
Yeah, so it started off as a ghostwriting thing, and then now it's become a way to integrate poetry into just business culture.
Really? Yeah. I know you did a project for me at Christmas, which I was very happy with. It wasn't poetry, but I had a hard time putting words together to talk about myself. So is that something you do for businesses, like help them with all kinds of projects, or what's your main focus, like helping?
That's essentially it.
Yeah?
Because it's something that a lot of people have to say, and they have a voice in their head, but they don't know how to say it. Exactly. On paper, and the hardest part is phrasing the words together, and so that's what I do. I help them write the newsletters or create the social media content or get those product descriptions that are a bit more creative and non-objective, or rather that are objective.
So all the stuff I hated in high school.
Yeah.
I could never, they always say do an outline, whatever, start, it was always so difficult, right? But so you're the one that aced all those courses, right?
Well, I always have been. I mean, I remember when I was a kid in public school and high school, I always used to read all the time, and I was that kid that would read in the car.
Yeah.
When we drove, so I don't know, I wouldn't know, I barely still know where anything is.
So words are very important to you. They're very powerful too. Of course, we know from social media, certain people out there, with the way that they post their stuff, it has a lot of meaning to a lot of people. So that's an important thing, to have that skill.
Yeah, it's something that it's good to tap into, and it's also something that, I mean, everyone can do it. It's just a matter of who is, or what's the best way to phrase things. Mm-hmm. Because I find, especially, and I think that's what gravitated me to poetry initially, and trying to frame it elsewhere so more people experience poetry in a different way than just publishing and Instagram or quotes, pretty much. And it's just, and I find that poetry has this element of just being able to express things that you can't normally think about.
Yeah, because I mean, if I was doing a poem, right, everything was rhyming, which is not.
Well, it is poetry as well.
Poetry, but you're right, because there's some beautiful poetry that can exactly encapsulate what you've got in your brain, that a person like me that just couldn't put that down, but somehow you're able to do that. It's a craft, for sure. It's an art, right? So what are some of the projects you're working on now, Kyle?
So I'm actually working on an exciting project now, because I'm changing the way the company is headed. Yeah. So I always used to have things individual. So people would ask me for social media content or website copywriting or a newsletter, or can I just edit this small post to make sure it works well. And it works, but then it's really hard to gauge pricing, and it's really difficult to give you an idea of what you're looking for and what to expect until you get it. And it's a problem that a lot of people in writing have, and in marketing too, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah. Do you find it's been well received, the idea of poetry? Because I mean, it's something different for me. I mean, I think, okay, just a bunch of words put together, but poetry itself is so different. Then it's a different way to approach things, right? Like.
Yeah, and that's part of the rebrand as well, is that I really want to pivot and explain and explore how poetry is effective instead of what it is. So we always see poetry as something that is either published on Instagram or is just emotion on paper.
Yeah.
Because that's poetry for everyone. But within that, there's techniques and there's approaches. And really, in the end, poetry is just writing that has very careful word choice, sentence length, spacing, and a hidden message. I mean, that's poetry.
Yeah, so you can get a message in a few brief words rather than a whole book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's something that you can take it out of a book too.
Yeah.
So it's because as much as people can write poetry, it's a skill to just be able to write in general.
Mm-hmm.
And poetry is the avenue, so the way that you can start off being creative, but you can also create better change by implementing that creative source. Because, for example, a lot of people that do copywriting or business writing and marketing,
Mm-hmm.
they write poetry on the side, or they perform music.
Okay, yeah,
But-
the creative part of them. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
exactly.
that doesn't really come out
Yeah.
unless you know them.
Yeah,
And there's even some mentors I have where they've written 2 or 3 fiction books already, but they don't put that on a resume. That's
Yeah.
not on their LinkedIn bio.
yeah. Well, I think in a lot of ways the arts in general, not just writing, but artists, painters, are sometimes not valued as much as they should be, because it's
Mhm.
very important to society that we have creative minds, because I find I'm too I have a hard time with that, right? I'll never be
Yeah.
an artist, I'll never be a writer. There's a
Some people
reason,
just aren't. I mean,
you
it
know,
is a,
yeah,
it's
our
a
brains
thing.
all work differently, right? And that creative part, that we need to embrace that as
Mhm.
society, because it's very important that we are a whole, not just everybody. There's mathematicians and there's artists, and sometimes there's overlapping of those things, but it's nice to have a creative force in the city, right? To look
Mhm.
at the arts, because sometimes they aren't considered valuable, like I say, and I think it's very valuable to have somebody.
Yeah, and that's my goal. I really want to create a possibility to integrate poetry into the culture of business, and really make it so people are aware that there's a lot of creative influence in this.
Mhm.
And so when you see the pricing of of an agency, of a real estate agent, or if someone says they can help you with just whatever,
Mhm.
it's essentially it's the influences that I really want to highlight. And in my case, it's pinpointed on poetry, but it can also just sort of make it very clear that arts are there.
Mhm.
But it's a different way to change up the approach, because you can approach marketing with strategies and proven numbers and stats, or you can approach it from a poetry perspective and look at the message at the end. How do you present it?
Mhm.
Are you taking the client first with his first story?
Mhm.
Are you leading them somewhere that they don't expect?
Yeah.
Are you showing things that are creative and artsy, and things that are actually trying to move and advance things forward, instead of just applying a strategy, putting a box on top of the square? This is kind of like
That's
a circle.
kind of me.
Yeah. And it works really well. It really does.
Well,
but it's just sometimes.
Yeah, we need to also embrace a different way of looking at things. So I understand you also have a podcast too, and
Yeah, it's a fun side project that I've been working on with John Borowski. So it's called Safe Space, and it's on Thursdays at 1. And we just interview talented and innovative people. It's a side project I've always liked to do, and I've always been a fan of finding people that are kind of like me, that think differently.
yeah,
And so podcast is a really good way to bring them on the show, but also give them a spotlight, because
Yeah.
it's real. You don't know that people like Dino Perlman Shea or Rob Skiffington, or even and if you're not on social media, you know that Connor O'Rourke
Mhm.
is doing a TED Talk, or
yeah,
it's just there's certain people that, unless you're in that industry or within that realm, and so it's fascinating. So just figured, hey, as well, just want
yeah.
to talk.
Well, that's one of the reasons I started doing the videos too, is because sometimes it's hard for small businesses or charities or whatever to have their voice put out there, because they can't afford to hire somebody necessarily. But and I just think it's so fascinating, all the different people in this city that people know nothing about. So
Mhm.
well, I thank you for popping over and
Yeah, it was
talking
fun.
about it, because I mean, when I first met you and it said Poetry Ghost, and I thought, well, what the heck? is that about? And really, yeah, I appreciate your creative mind, that's for sure, and you were very helpful to me when I was trying to put something together. And
Yeah, I'm glad it could help, and it's something that is, it's a fun way to add writing and change things up, and to really make it so business owners can have a place to delegate things and to realize,
yeah, because I overanalyze it to death, and then you're frozen. Then you don't do it. You don't go forward with something because you analyze every word, and sometimes it just takes somebody from an objective point of view. I mean, you did it so quickly, I couldn't believe it. So it was wonderful, and I really appreciate it. And if somebody wants to get a hold of you and talk about your business or how you can help them with their creative writing, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can just find me, just look up Poetry Ghost on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, whatever your taste is. It's Poetry Ghost everywhere, and then just in my emails there's on the website, poetryghost.com, which is coming out very soon. It's in the very final process, which I'm very excited.
Good.
Yeah, so just, and it's exciting. I'm glad that, because you're right. It's something that we have talked for a while, but it's good to especially get your perspective on real estate and the way that you're really giving people a platform. It's exciting.
Well, I like to help when I can. Thanks so much, Kyle. Great to see you.